Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be a meta update on my meta updates. You may be asking, what the heck does that mean, BSJ? And the answer is that Valve, on March 19th, just under a week ago, let us know that they're no longer going to be sharing with the API all of the matches that are above 8,500 MMR. So what does that mean? Pretty much the death of Dota 2 Pro Tracker and the relevance of stats anywhere that's of pro level worthiness. You still get to see everything in terms of Dota buff stats below 8,500 MMR. But now all the strats we're going to see in tournaments, they're no longer leaked. And also all the things that these pro players are cooking up, they can do without worrying about somebody else copying it the next day. So you may be asking my thoughts on the fact that they're hiding matches. I personally have had an issue with how homogenized the meta has become over time, but not just because people are picking the same thing every game, but also because the meta gets solved within like a week of every time the patch comes out. People then complain about the staleness of the meta. But not only that, people also complain when you're picking heroes with low win rates. And this is like a week into the new patch. I remember last year I picked Sand King like a week or two into a new patch, and a lot of my viewers came to me, a lot of my teammates in my games were like, dude, this hero has a 45% win rate, stop picking Sand King. And that aspect of what the API and like Dota 2 Pro Tracker was doing, I think was pretty toxic, and it really removed a lot of creativity and innovation from Dota. And with that being gone, I think that will be significantly better, and it will allow more uniqueness to the meta and for teams to be cooking up some strategies going into their pro matches where the other team won't be as prepared for it. And also as an analyst, you know, when we were at Dream League and the new patch came out, we would look at 9 class, for instance, and be like, this guy played Night Stalker support 10 times in the last day. They're going to pick it today. And while that's like cool and all that the analysts know what he's going to pick, I also don't think that's good for the game. I don't think it's good for competitive integrity even. And it also encourages these pro players to smurf, and it also discourages them to play pubs. And I think pro players being encouraged to play pubs on their main accounts should be a motivation for everything. And I also think that the reason Valve did it was all of the things I'm mentioning. I just think they didn't like it, right? They just didn't like the way that Pro Dota was developing and that people were just looking at the numbers and basing everything off of that. So even though the numbers could make everybody optimize better, and there's definitely going to be people that are hurt by this, I personally think in the long run, it's much better. And my goal is to keep giving you guys relevant meta updates such that hopefully it's not as crippling for you if you were one of the people that heavily relied on the statistics of these websites. Now, bear in mind that this patch, we will not be getting like a full understanding of just the gravity of the impact of these things because the meta is already settled. We'll mainly know once like 7.38c comes out or 7.39, whatever, once the meta gets shaken up and these sites are no longer there. The reason why this is going to be an update on my meta updates is because a lot of my meta updates were leaning towards giving you guys the statistics. I'm still going to be giving you guys meta updates weekly, but rather than focusing heavily on statistics, we may still shout out those sometimes, especially if it's like talking about your hero level pubs and how heroes are doing. But it's going to be a lot more about the heroes I'm seeing in the patch, the best heroes in current positions based on pick rate and win rate that I'm seeing in my games, but also I'll be keeping an eye on tournaments as well. But we're also going to be talking about the vibes of the meta a lot more, something I actually enjoy doing. And so that's what today's video is going to be. We're going to be talking about the vibes, what's really dictating the meta in 7.38b, technically. So you guys can have a grasp of what to pick and what not to pick and why, with examples, of course. But for now, feels like things are really settled, and let's go ahead and get into the actual Dota aspect of this meta update. So I think this meta can be summed up pretty straightforwardly, and that's that I played a game of Axe last week, and what I felt like I needed was 5 dispels. I felt like there were Weaver bugs on me, Silencer, Arcane Curse and Global, Dazzle, Poison Touch, Puck with a Witchblade and a Silence. It feels like so much of the meta right now, especially with these like carries all going Orb of Corrosion, a lot of offlaners doing it too, even mid laners going Orb of Corrosion, people taking the Orb of Destruction neutral item. Feels like this meta is so much about backliners who apply dispels or melee heroes that get in your face, lower your armor, and burst you down. That's what it feels like the meta is right now. So those are the creme de la creme heroes. Heroes that have a way to close the gap on you with innate mobility because they don't need a blink dagger, and the DOTs make it really annoying to utilize a blink dagger, something I felt in my Axe game. But then heroes that like to sit in the back and dish out these debuffs and also dish out the damage. So innate mobility, melee heroes that get on top of you and burst you. If they're gonna jump you, they're gonna burst you. And then heroes that also deal damage by just kind of standing their ground and hitting. So we're seeing a lot of sniper mid, for instance, but the best carry in the patch right now feels like Nature's Prophet. He's a little bit difficult to play, but the whole idea is that as a universal hero, he gets a lot of damage just by leveling up. And the carry build is to go Battle Fury or Mjolnir, just straight up rushing it. It feels like a lot less kill items are being used right now, and since there's so much damage over time, the Mjolnir procs are like massively impactful. So heroes that are like rushing Mjolnir into Hurricane Pike in order to like create the gap between the slows. Nature's Prophet by far the best. We've also been seeing carry DK with the Frost Facet also going Mjolnir Hurricane Pike. But then like third item Revenant's Brooch, maybe fourth item, really seems like amazing synergy with the Mjolnir because of the spell lifesteal that it provides. So it's like a single target crit along with the AoE of Mjolnir. So it synergizes really well by giving you both. But then it also sustains you with 2 items that give you damage. So that's what it feels like in the carry role. And the only heroes that are kind of exceptions to the whole Battle Fury Mjolnir thing are heroes with built-in cleave that burst you, most notably Sven, as well as Tiny. Tiny, I think, being by far better. Despite the nerfs, I did release a video on Tiny last week. Go check that out. I'm 3-0 so far in my pubs with it. It just seems super broken. But with the camps the way they are, you need heroes that flash farm, move around the map pretty quickly, and don't mind all of these damage over time debuffs because they can either close the gap on you like PA, like Tiny with a Shadow Blade and Harpoon. Also Magnus, something I don't see in my games hardly at all because he's banned all the time. But same idea as Sven and Tiny, buys Harpoon, has built-in cleave. But on top of that, we're seeing a lot of mobile mids for this exact reason. We're seeing the backliner mids that are also lane dominators like Sniper and Dazzle. And then the rest of them are pretty much all heroes with built-in mobility to catch them. The Queen of Pains, the Ember Spirits, the Storm Spirits. I think you're kind of getting the idea of what we're seeing. In the off lane, because of what I've talked about with all these slows and debuffs, dispels are the name of the game. Heroes that don't mind slows like Darkseer, and heroes that dispel them. For me, I feel like the creme de la creme of offlane right now is Abaddon still, as well as Tidehunter. For Abaddon, you either go like a Radiance Manta scaling build, but I've also tried out a build myself and seen a few times where you go Blade Mail, Orchid, Blink. So Blade Mail is if they have a lot of burst and they proc your ulti very easily. It makes sense because you pop Blade Mail when you're full HP and they don't want to hit you. But then you go Orchid Blink as being like a huge threat and saying, I know you don't want to hit me, so now I'm going to make you hit me. Or at least I'm going to threaten you. So Abaddon, because of the built-in shield dispel. Same with Tidehunter. These heroes feel like they need to be specifically hard countered by like high burst breaks as well, like breaks and silences. It takes a lot to take them down. So if you didn't already know, the likes of Dazzle, Tinker in the mid lane as well as support, absolutely broken. Why? Because they deal a lot of damage and apply a lot of debuffs from the backlines. And also they both farm very fast, clear waves. And heroes like Tinker and Nature's Prophet are absolutely amazing because of the fact that the camps feel really wonky right now, which I talked about in my farming patterns video from just a couple weeks ago. And the fact that they're global heroes means that they can farm wherever they want without kind of griefing the team and being useless on the map. When we're talking about support heroes, I talked about the debuff heroes, the silencers, the AAs, the weavers, the muertas, the heroes that sit in the back and throw nukes at you. Those are the creme de la creme supports, in my opinion. Obviously, the Jakiros of the world are very nice too, but he still fits the same description. But in my opinion, since Jakiro's been nerfed, it's more of like a reliable pick, and it's still solid. But I think these other heroes are even better, with Silencer and AA, I think, being the best 5s, and Weaver Muerta being the best 4s. There are some melee heroes in there, like the Bounty Hunters, that scout out and also close the gap, like Spirit Breaker, but they're much more situational in lane. And I don't think they fit the meta as much as these other heroes. So with that in mind, the meta is very fast-paced. There's lots of objectives to play around, and there's fights happening all over the place. So being a hero that builds like one farming item into one fighting item seems to be the way to go. We're seeing like Battle Fury SNY, Mjolnir Hurricane Pike, you know, Mask of Madness Harpoon on like Sven and Magnus and Tiny. Tiny's more of Echo Saber, Shadow Blade. But the idea is simple. Like, your second item enables you to fight. And that's kind of the tempo of the meta right now. And a lot of the carries need to be able to utilize the camps behind you. So being able to farm Ancients relatively early, or at least be able to rush a Maelstrom where you're not super griefed by doing so, i.e. Nature's Prophet, such that you can farm those camps pretty early. I talked about in my farming video on Tiny that by going Echo Saber or Mask of Madness on like Magnus, for instance, these items that are like 2k to 3k gold that then allow this hero to farm Ancients, those are the carries to be looking for. Obviously, when it comes to Battle Fury builders like PA and Ursa, PA has Blur, Ursa can farm Ancients decently early game. So for both these heroes, that's why they're generally the best carries that buy Battle Fury right now. And they also have built-in mobility where Ursa buys early Blink and also has his own Dispel from his ulti, and PA obviously has her Blink. So that's about it for 7.38B. I know I just gave you guys a nice dissertation, but it's simple. Backline heroes with dispellable slows and debuffs, and melee heroes that jump burst you, most notably with innate abilities or with the items like Shadow Blade and Harpoon. So if you guys have made it this far in the video, I'd like to direct your attention to bsjdota.com, my website that I'm putting a lot more effort into moving forward, where you can find everything that has to do with me, my coaching, my YouTube videos, blog posts keeping you up to date on Dota and all the news surrounding it, as well as anything in regards to my socials and where you can follow me. Please check it out at bsjdota.com, especially if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, which I do anytime, Monday through Thursday during my stream. I hope you guys like what you see and will continue iterating on it in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.